Brodie Retallick dismisses Ardie Savea rumors and insists Scott Robertson's fate was never down to one player. All Blacks great Brodie Retallick has moved to shut down speculation that Ardie Savea played a decisive role in Scott Robertson's shock dismissal, insisting the idea of a single player determining the fate of a national head coach fundamentally misunderstand how reviews work inside New Zealand rugby. The former lock, one of the most respected figures of the modern All Blacks era, says Savea has been unfairly dragged into the fallout from Robertson's sacking and believes the star loose forward has been singled out amid a wave of rumor and assumption that Savea's name became central to the narrative earlier this month when reports emerged suggesting the All Blacks talisman was considering leaving New Zealand if changes were not made to the national setup. Just days later, Robertson was relieved of his duties as head coach, prompting inevitable speculation that a player revolt, led or influenced by Savea, had forced New Zealand rugby's hand. NZR chair David Kirk publicly rejected those claims, stressing that Robertson's departure followed a comprehensive review of the program rather than pressure from individuals within the squad. Still, the timing ensured that Savea's involvement remained a talking point, particularly given his standing within the team and his reputation as a leader. Retallick, however, says the narrative does not align with reality. He's probably been singled out. Speaking to the Post, Retallick expressed sympathy for Savea, suggesting the scrutiny placed on the back rower has been misplaced and unfair. He's probably been singled out a little bit, the 2015 Rugby World Cup winner said. Retallick, who spent more than a decade embedded in the All Blacks environment, explained that internal reviews are far broader, deeper, and more methodical than many outside the system appreciate. For any All Blacks review that I ever took part in, there was a wide range of players, from the most experienced to the least experienced, to gather what their thoughts were and to gauge the feeling of the whole team, he said. In other words, feedback is not funneled through a handful of senior voices, nor is it driven by star power. Instead, it is deliberately designed to capture the collective mood of the squad. They're definitely not taken lightly, Retallick added. That point is crucial. The All Blacks have long been known for their rigorous internal standards, and Retallick insists that any review capable of ending a head coach's tenure would never hinge on the opinion of a single player. Regardless of stature, the review process, explained Retallick, also offered rare insight into how these reviews typically operate, highlighting the role of experienced performance consultants and the layers of scrutiny involved. He referenced Don Tricker, a respected high-performance consultant, who previously worked with New Zealand Rugby and was involved in past reviews. Don Tricker used to work for New Zealand Rugby and does a thorough job and is highly experienced, Retallick said. So, I think the result of what happened was probably a consensus of the whole group. That word, consensus, is key. Retallick is adamant that professional organizations do not make seismic decisions based on isolated feedback, particularly when those decisions carry significant financial, reputational, and competitive consequences. I would suspect, and I pretty much guarantee, that in any professional organization, a review to be that thorough and with those kinds of outcomes is not taken from one person's comments. He said in Retallick's view, the idea that Savea's reported frustrations alone could topple a head coach is both unrealistic and unfair. The danger of scapegoating the former All Blacks lock's comments hint at a broader issue. The tendency to personalize institutional decisions by attaching them to recognizable figures. Savea, as one of New Zealand's most influential and outspoken players, was always likely to attract attention once rumors of discontent surfaced. But Retallick believes that spotlight has crossed into scapegoating. From his experience, players are invited to contribute honestly during reviews, not to campaign for outcomes. That distinction matters. Honest feedback is a cornerstone of high-performance environments, but Retallick suggests it is dangerous to confuse transparency with powered in elite systems. Players provide information. Administrators make decisions. Savea's frustrations, if they were expressed, would have been one data point among many, not a verdict, the timing, coincidence. In narrative, the timing of events undoubtedly fueled speculation. Reports of Savea's potential departure were followed swiftly by Robertson's dismissal, creating a narrative too neat for many to ignore. But Retallick's perspective reframes that sequence as coincidence rather than cause and effect. High-level reviews often run for weeks or months behind the scenes. By the time decisions are announced publicly, the process is usually well advanced. The idea that NZR pivoted overnight in response to player unrest does not align with Retallick's experience of how the organization operates. Instead, he implies that the decision to part ways with Robertson was the culmination of a longer, more complex evaluation, one that predated any media reports. Life after the All Blacks, but still connected, although Retallick is only 34 and, in theory, young enough to contemplate a return to New Zealand rugby. He has ruled out a comeback. His playing future remains firmly offshore, where he continues to perform at a high level in Japan. The towering lock currently plays for the Kobelco Kobe Steelers, where he has found both stability and success in the latter stages of his career. Yet even from afar, Retallick remains connected to the All Blacks ecosystem, particularly given the current uncertainty surrounding the national coaching position. That connection is sharpened by one significant link: Kobe Steelers head coach Dave Rennie. Dave Rennie enters the conversation. Rennie, a former All Blacks assistant and ex-Wallabies head coach, has emerged as one of the leading contenders to replace Robertson. His presence at Kobe places Retallick in close proximity to one of the most talked-about figures in New Zealand rugby right now. Asked whether Rennie had offered any insight into his future plans, Retallick was unsurprisingly discreet. "He hasn't given any clues," he said. The speculation, however, has not been confined to New Zealand media. Retallick revealed that even within the Kobe squad, the situation is being closely followed. "A lot of people are talking about it, especially the foreigners within our team," he said. Retallick suggested that if Rennie were genuinely in the frame for the All Blacks role, he would be unlikely to discuss it openly. "I guess if he was having crack, he'd probably keep his cards pretty close to his chest to stop the rumors going around." Rennie's credentials, while Retallick stopped short of endorsing Rennie outright, his comments reflected clear respect for the coach's experience and clarity of purpose. "He's obviously finishing here at the end of the season," Retallick said. "I don't know what his plans are, but if he was given the opportunity, he's a guy that knows exactly what he wants and needs, and has plenty of experience." That assessment aligns with the broader perception of Rennie within the game. Known for his organizational skills, calm demeanor, and strong player relationships, Rennie has long been viewed as a coach capable of thriving in high-pressure environments. "I think he would do the job well if it was an option for him," Retallick added. Whether Rennie ultimately emerges as NZR's preferred candidate remains to be seen. But Retallick's comments underline why his name continues to circulate. Perspective from experience, perhaps the most valuable aspect of Retallick's intervention is not his commentary on Savea or Rennie, but the reminder of how elite environments actually function. Retallick was part of countless reviews during his All Blacks career, some following triumph, others after disappointment. He understands the emotional intensity of those moments, but also the discipline required to process them constructively. His insistence that Robertson's sacking was the result of collective feedback rather than individual dissent serves as a corrective to the more sensational narratives that often dominate public discourse. The IT also offers protection to players like Savea, who may find themselves unfairly burdened by assumptions about their influence. A moment of transition. New Zealand rugby now finds itself at a crossroads. Robertson's departure has triggered a period of reflection, uncertainty, and recalibration, both within NZR and among supporters. As the search for a new head coach continues, voices like Retallick's provide grounding, reminding observers that decisions of this magnitude are rarely simple, sudden, or personal. They're the product of systems, structures, and shared accountability. And if Retallick is right, then the idea that one of the All Blacks' most committed servants could single-handedly bring down a coach says far more about the appetite for drama than it does about the reality inside the All Blacks camp. For Ardie Savea, that perspective may offer some consolation. For New Zealand rugby, it may serve as a timely reminder that progress is built on collective responsibility, not convenient blame.